Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Thanks for staying, and I promise I won't keep you very long, partly because I now realise you're all experts in the field of human rights in Ethiopia, and a lot of what I'll say is quite general, and my colleagues here in the panel will give you much more information. So I was going to speak about freedoms of assembly and association and freedom of expression, and while I was researching this, obviously the word freedom is a very loose term, and it struck me that, well, I had to check that Ethiopia is still a member of the United Nations Council for Human Rights, and apparently it is for the next 2.5 years, even though it doesn't seem to hold it for very many. So obviously these freedoms are held, guaranteed by the Constitution, but extremely limited, and as you're well aware, in recent times almost all major assemblies and protests have led to mass arrests and killings, and the government's labelling of peaceful protesters terrorists has just escalated the violent response. Amnesty in the autumn of 2014 published a report, I'm sure many of you have seen it, and it was called Because I Am a Roma, and it focused specifically on the repressions within the Oromia region, and this obviously was before the recent ones that started again in November. I'm not going to read all of that, but one of the interesting things in the summary at least is to say between 2011 and 2014 at least 5,000 Oromos were arrested as a result of their actual or suspected peaceful opposition to the government. So, as you know, you don't even have to say anything. Recent arrests you're well aware of. Amnesty, as you probably know, is not able to enter Ethiopia, so it's very dependent on receiving reports as Human Rights and other organisations are Rights Watch. But one of the things that worries, one of the many things, is that a lot of the people that are held are being held in military camps, detention centres, temporary ones, and because of this they're even further at risk because they're beyond the normal legal protection mechanisms. Most of them don't have access to lawyer or even family, and therefore remain at great risk of torture and ill treatment. And it's not just safe to protest here as well, it's not just in Ethiopia these things happen. There are reports by the diaspora living both in the UK and the US that Ethiopian security agents operate there or here. So I don't know if you were photographed on your way in today or yesterday, but people at this type of meetings and demonstrations are filmed. It's also been reported that the Union of Oromo Students in Europe is infiltrated and monitored also by the Ethiopian government. But the government does encourage rallies and demonstrations as long as it's on their side. And certainly when I was living in Ethiopia, I lived in Debre-Marcos for the first year, and I was there during the 2010 election, working at the university, and everybody was highly encouraged to go to take part in the rallies before and after the election, and in fact the students and teachers were told quite clearly what the consequences would be if they didn't attend such rallies. Okay, freedom of expression quickly. Again, this is guaranteed in the law, and I mean, I don't know what the rest of the panel will say, but to me it's almost zero freedom of expression both in public and private sphere. The press, almost all independent newspapers have either been asked to close or they've been closed. They're often accused of incitement, of encouraging violent overthrows of the government. Many of the private newspapers report informal editorial control by the government through article placement requests and calls from government officials concerning articles perceived as critical of the government. The private sector and government journalists routinely practice self-censorship. Okay, I'm nearly there. The Committee for the Protection of Journalists, their statistics, Ethiopia is the 4th worst jailer of journalists, that's after North Korea and China and Egypt. It's the 2nd country where most journalists have fled from. Syria is the 1st, and obviously broadcast, the public television is controlled, and the government often jams foreign broadcasts. Telephones are monitored. Freedom House reports that the regime maintains paid informants, so the government's tapping phones. The most worrying thing, of course, in the growing area is the internet surveillance. As when you've got only one state internet telephone company, then there is a lot of control and a lot of blocking of different sites. I won't go through all these different ones. Spyware, which Felix, I'm sure, will tell you more about if you're interested in, is a very sophisticated piece of software that is being used to infiltrate people's computers. I often get sent malware viruses. The only email address I get sent malware viruses to my Amnesty email. I have 3 other email addresses, and none of them seem to receive the same ones. And again, the Human Rights Watch report of last year, or 2 years ago, gives great detail in all the different types of monitoring. So finally, freedom of expression, no, there isn't one. It's increasing, not just directly but electronically, as you know, and so there is very limited freedom of expression, both publicly and privately. Amnesty, we just choose one person out of the thousands that are held, as you probably know, it's a Sindanega, and we use our voice here and have regular protests at the Ethiopian Embassy in London, which does annoy them. So it's something we can do, and we'll continue doing it. I'll leave it there, okay?
Thanks very much.